Today we'll talk about cascading style sheets for a little while, and we'll do the same on Thursday. Whether or not you may not realize it, but every time pretty much you've been adding text in your website, you've been creating cascading style sheets. For example, when I specified the text for my daughter's website that I'm creating here, the headline, it created style 1 here. And if I were to create another one, this is the default text. But let me go ahead here. I don't know if you've noticed, but when you're adding text, there's only two ways you can do a return. You can do a line break, which is less space between the two lines, or a paragraph break. If you just hit the return key, it's a paragraph break. If you hold down the shift key and hit the return key, it's a line break, and there's a little bit less space. So now I can go ahead and I can center this, and I could apply style 1, or I can create a brand new one. So instead of the paragraph tag, maybe I could use a heading, and maybe I want to use heading 2 for this one. And I'm going to set up my own heading style here. Let's come down here. Wait a minute. I'm going to go ahead and specify size, and I could use maybe 18 pixels. I could specify a color, so make it red or deep pink or something, and maybe we want to make it italic. All sorts of features that you can add here. And what am I doing here? I didn't specify the font yet, so I'll do that. So let's say I'm going to use Georgia Times New Roman, and we'll say, coming to you. I already did that below, but you get that idea soon. Okay? And you'll notice that we have style 2 now down here. It's automatically adding styles, and when you look at them in here, they're in line, or embedded basically in line. They're in here. Here's the H2 align center. Here's, if I were to select this, coming to you soon, and you'll see here, this is an H2 centered, and we're determining the height by ems. The span class is given style 2. Okay, so now I can either change style 2 in here. I can change, there's a couple of ways. Let me back up. There's a couple of ways that we can change the style. I can select the style here, and I can come down here and I can change it, and the properties for styles. So if I decided, you know what, I don't want 18 after all, or if I don't want this font family, or if I don't want this color, or if I want to add another property to this, I can. I can change that from here. So for example, if I just want to change the color, and I'm not too crazy about the color, so maybe I am, maybe I'm not. Go ahead and we want to change it. Notice it automatically updated it from there. Okay? So now I've permanently changed the style of this. So wherever this style is used, it uses that color. If I want to change the font, if I want to change the size, all sorts of things can be changed from here. That's one place you can change it. Another place you can change it is that you select the style, and we can come over here to where the little pencil icon is below properties, and it'll say edit style. And when you do that, it brings up a little dialog box for us. And you'll notice under type, we have that specified here. Here's the one that I specified, Georgia Times New Roman Times Serif. What if instead I choose, let's use Courier instead. I don't know if that's what I really want, but if I click apply, notice it changes it. Okay? So this would be another place you could change. You can change the size of type, and type for web design is a little peculiar. You can use pixels. You can use, look at all these other types too. You can use points, which is what I know from print, but I'm told that of recent that that's not necessarily the way to go for the web. Something I've learned, not necessarily been told. You can measure in inches. You can measure in centimeters, millimeters, picas. Typically, I don't know what EXS is. If anybody knows, I would appreciate it. But you can use ems or percentage for the web. And the reason that they suggest that is that if you're using CSS to define your type, that the user then can control the size just by hitting Command plus, and it will enlarge it, or Command minus and make it smaller. So what you're doing by using ems and percentages is you're making everything relative to one another. Okay, so that they maintain the same scale relative to one another. They just all might be bigger or all might be smaller when they're used by the end user. So coming from print, I'm used to points where everything is definitive. It's specific. I want my headline to be 36 point. I want it to be 48 points. I don't think, I mean, I've used it and I don't see anything bad happening. I'm just telling you what the direction that people say that you should go. Now this comes from more programming side of it that they prefer. And M is a term that was taken from typography. And in typically whatever font size you've used, whatever the width is and the height of an M, especially when it was mono proportioned or monotype, where the width and the height were the same for every letter. Most type is proportioned differently, and I has a different width than an M, right? But if you look at the old typewriters, where they used basically like a courier or a square serif typeface, each letter, an I, W, M, E, it doesn't matter. They all had the same width. They had different, you know, same height, same width. They all took up the same amount of space. So that's really what an M refers to. It's similar to percentages, is that you're using relative sizes that based on this particular font, that everything will be scaled relative to this M, to this unit of square that you're using. I don't know that I'm explaining that typically very well, but you sort of get the idea. Huh? The kerning you can't control. It's not, again, it's not like Illustrator, it's not like Photoshop where you can really micromanage, for lack of a better word, the kerning. Meaning if you don't know what kerning is, it's a selective adjustment of space between letters and or words. And you can really fine tune that in there, and for type hounds you can get it really, really precise. Here is not, it's just automatic. Okay, so, but this is another place to change it. So here we have two places to change it. We can also do some other things in here, short of formatting our page. We can control the background color from here. So if you want a uniform background color for your website, if you want to integrate a background image, you can do that from here as well. Now, where you would do that would be, we would select our body tag. And whether or not you realize it, you're using body type somewhere in here. And if you don't have a body tag here under styles, then you could create some. And then from here, we could edit it here. And you'll notice the background color is set. So this is, we have a background color, and we can integrate a background image from here. There are a variety of ways of integrating background images. Again, it can be done from here. I can go to Modify and go to Page Properties. And you'll notice the appearance of that one selected. We have appearance. We can specify the default font. Well, maybe I want my default font to be Verdana. Well, I've changed, again, the CSS for my page, not the default font being Times Roman. And we can specify, this is kind of the base of the cascading style sheets where everything cascades from, that if you don't specify, then it will default to this. This would be the origin of that hierarchy. We can also use the base size from here. We can also specify a text color from here if you want, so that that's default. We can also specify, as I said, size. And here we have the option of a background image. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my rubber ducky just to show you what happens here. Okay, now again, the images that you choose for a background image, if you're going to apply it, and it will be applied as a cascading style sheet, still the rules apply that in terms of the formatting of that image. It has to be a JPEG, PNG, or GIF. Now, in the past, by default, if I were to apply this, watch what happens. Background images tile by default. So whatever size image you've used automatically tiles across the back. I can instead, I can select I want it maybe to repeat only along the X or the Y, or I can specify I don't want it to repeat. And by default, it sets it up in the upper left-hand corner. Well, instead, what we can do, okay, is I can click OK, and let's come back here, and I'm going to select my background image, and I can do that from here, or I can edit this from here. And when I go back and I edit the CSS rule, notice what is present that wasn't apparent, that was not visible before. I still have the no repeat, but notice that I can specify a horizontal and a vertical position, whereas I couldn't before. Because what if you don't want it in the upper left-hand corner? What if you want it centered, or you want it in the lower right-hand corner, or something like that? Well, I can specify, for example, that I want this to be 200 pixels over. And it moves it over. So I'm going to go ahead and make it 300 pixels in the C. I want to get this pretty close to centered. And just leave it at that, the vertical position, I can leave it alone. Or if I want the vertical position to be 0, then it sits at the top. So now you can fix it in the back. Okay, so let's make this again 100 maybe. So this is where you can control it, and it has changed here. Notice that we added another style attribute here, that not only do we have a background image, but now we have background position. And we also specified background no repeat. So we have all of these rules that apply to the background. If you do choose to use background images, I caution you. Background images can be pretty neat, and I have incorporated one on my own personal website, but let me explain some design rules that I applied that I think help make it work. No matter what image you use, if you're not careful, if there's text layered on top of it, it will be difficult to read. Think of subtitles in movies. That if you have lots of texture in an image, if you have lots of tonal variations, hue variations, it makes it difficult to read any kind of text on top of it. And even subtitles in movies are hard to read, you know, at least they are for me, even the better ones. So there are some things that you can do to change that, to make it more readable. One is to, in Photoshop, if you're going to use a JPEG image, go ahead and make it a tint, or change the, alter the transparency, and it will lighten the whole thing. It will make it like a tint. It will still be opaque if it's a JPEG, but it will make it much lighter, so that any text you use on top of it will dominate. Okay, that's one way. Another trick that you can do, that I have done on my own, and it was popular for a while. Actually, I don't want Safari, but that's okay. I want Firefox. Is to blur the image. And try to make sure that the image is, for the most part, monochromatic, uniform in its tonality, so that you get a uniform contrast. But if we go to kmart66.com, and we go to my personal website, not this one, because the header is separate from everything else. But if you go to home here, and you look at this, notice that the background image, by it being blurred and uniform in tonality in parts, the text reads pretty well on top of it. It sits behind it. It doesn't compete with the text. So those are two ways that I can think of. That number one, it's almost, they have the same effect, that you tint it so that it doesn't compete and it's light. Make sure that you maintain good contrast. And maybe in conjunction with that, you also blur it. So you get a sense of a feeling of space, a texture, of some sort of image behind there, but it doesn't, you're not fighting to read with the top images. Because I've seen all too often where people use tiled images and then text on top, and it's very difficult to read. Okay. That's why I use the background image to show you that there are tricks, and I haven't removed it yet, that there are ways of doing that to make it work if you do want it. Another thing that you should consider if you are going to use a large background image like this, that the size of the image, if you wish, because the end user can scale the window, that you be careful and that anything that lies out of that 800 by 600 range is non-important. It is not important. Okay, so if you do have a larger image, that everything from the upper left-hand corner is important, and whatever is in the lower right-hand corner is less important. Okay, or not important at all. Huh? You don't have to. You will see. In my case, what I did is I made a big image that was 1600 pixels wide by 1200 pixels deep. And that was how I was able to feather the edge of my image. And I used a gray background. So someone with even a large monitor, if they chose to scale this out, because even when you say no repeat, you would see some sort of edge and it would blend with the background color. If you do have a repeated image, or even if it's 1600 by 1200 pixels, if someone has a 30-inch monitor and they stretch the thing out, it will begin, after the window size exceeds that 1600 pixels wide, it begins to tile. But most people will never see that because their monitors are too small to stretch it that big. Does that make sense?
Is that image with your logo there, is that one Photoshop image?
No, this is a separate image. This is separate. And
when you import it into your website,
the background image is one image.
yes, and then it's a set Kmart.
The logo is a separate image.
Okay. And
That
they oriented in terms of the expansion.
I used an AP div on the top to organize it, to put this in a cell in a table in there, or actually in a div that allowed me to do that.
So that's your upper left corner.
Right. And I wanted it.
800 by 600 centimeters.
I wanted it. It's just my personal taste that I wanted it locked in the upper left-hand corner, so that if most people, if they do view this and they have a large monitor, they realize, okay, this is really as large as I can see it. So they'll scale the browser window to fit. But if you're on a laptop with a 15-inch monitor, this would fit just quite nicely. Other options would be that this whole thing could be centered, and I could take it, and no matter how big you make it, it centers it, and you just have a lot of space around the left and the right. I'm not that keen on that though, but it's personal taste. Okay. So what we've done, notice that the AP divs are part of the styles. The body tag that I created for the background color, are part of the styles. We have two different styles of text in here, and they can be renamed by clicking on them here. And you can hold on here. If you just click, there we go. Click once and that highlights it. You can change the name of it to whatever you want. Maybe name this subhead or something like that, if that means something to you. Okay, so now that's named and it changed the color of it by doing that, and I don't know why it did that. Huh?
Does that change every page?
No, it doesn't.
Or only the page you're working on?
Hold on
The
here.
management of CSS that you would change every
Well, I'll show you. That's the next step. I want to make sure that you understand this. Subhead. There we go. Okay, so this only applies to this page. So you're thinking, well, this isn't helping me. I mean, how is this going to save me time? This is what you have to do. What we're going to do is we're going to export the style sheet. Okay, or we have to export these styles and create a new style sheet while we're doing it. Now, what you have the option to do after you create the style sheet is that you can embed a style sheet or you can attach a style sheet. Do one of the two. My recommendation is that you only attach it. Okay, so it's linked. Just like these images are linked to the page, the style sheet is linked to the page. The reason I say that is that if you choose later on to change the styles of any of these, that whatever pages are linked to it will automatically be updated. That's the advantage to it. Okay? If it's embedded, if the style sheet is embedded in the page, then even if you've embedded that style sheet in another page, if you change the style sheet to one, it won't necessarily change the other page because it's internal. It's not linked. You would have to import again or revise the changes to it in that embedded one. So the optimum choice is to just link it. This is how you do it. And it's in CS3, I find it awkward. Maybe it's changed in CS4. I'm not so sure. I'm going to check it. But this is what you have to do. You have to make sure that your CSS styles are visible. I'm going to select all of them. To do that, I click on the top one, hold down the Shift key, and I select the bottom one. And now they're all selected. Now what you do is in this little flyout window in the top right-hand corner, what I want to do is to create, I'm going to copy first, or actually I'm just going to select Move CSS Rules. We're just going to do that. We're going to move them, which is like saying I'm going to export them. Now, if you have an existing style sheet, you can do that. I'm going to create a new style sheet. Okay. I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to make sure that it's in my root folder. And notice it recognizes that immediately. And we'll call it Lauren's Styles.css. And you need to add the CSS. Okay? And I click OK. And now notice all those styles are gone. Now what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to take these styles that were left here, and I'm going to select them all again. And I want to delete them or cut them. Okay? So I'm just going to cut them all. And it takes it back to what I had before. See, it's untitled. It's nothing. See how it removed the background color, it removed the text, it removed everything that I had? Okay, then you go back and select all, and I can actually put them all in the trash as the easiest way. So I delete them all. So now I have no styles. Now why would I want to do that? Because I want to attach the style sheet that I just created. So now what I can do at the bottom here, you'll see this, it looks like a little link. I want to attach the style sheet. Now, I've kind of briefly gone over one of these others. The one with the pencil is to edit an existing style. If you wish to add a new CSS rule, you can do that from here. And I already trashed the rules from here. Well, I want to link a style sheet, so I'm going to click here, and I'm going to browse in here, and I should have Lauren's. I hope I do. Oh, wait a minute, there we go. I have to go in my root folder, because it could be anywhere. Oh, wait a minute, why is it untitled? That's dumb. I thought I named it. Okay. Huh? Let me try it and see what happens. I thought I named it, so maybe I goofed. Let me go ahead and try it. And so now it gives you the option. Do you want to import it, which means to embed it, or to link it? I want to link it. Click OK, and it didn't do a thing. So I did I did the wrong one. So I'm going to trash it. And I hope maybe I put it in the wrong place. Huh. Well, let's try again. Wouldn't be the first time I screwed up. Shoot. Let's go back to the desktop. Because, you know, I wasn't paying attention to where I was saving it, and I thought it was in the correct root folder.
It might be a different Lauren name.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm going to cancel this for a minute. Cancel. I'm going to come up here, and I said Lauren's Styles CSS. So it's there. Just where is it? Let me make sure, and this is what the style sheet looks like. I'm going to go ahead and file, and I'm going to do save as, and I'm going to make sure that it is saved.
Oh,
And
Lauren.
saved it in Lauren. I put it in the wrong root folder. I want it in the one that I created for this semester. So that's why it didn't exist. So I'll go ahead and save. Update links, sure, why not? So let me close that one. Let's close this one, which is really no style sheet, so don't save it. And let's go back again and see if I can't fix the mistake I made. But again, in these old Lynda Wyman tapes, before they had them online and CDs and stuff, she would say that all the time. She'd say, boy, that was really kind of a good thing that that mistake happened, because now it shows you what can happen. And there is some truth to that, you know, if you save it in the wrong root folder, the wrong place, and you're wondering why it isn't working, and you know you saved it, then that's what happens. Importance of keeping everything in the right place. So let's link it again. And again, I don't want untitled. I'm going to go ahead here and browse for the right one. Here's Lauren's. That's the right one. Style sheet. And I choose it. That's it. I want to make sure it's linked. I click OK. And it took that in, but obviously that's not the right one either. Because there's still things that I haven't created yet. This was from before. Well, that's okay. Well, no, it's not okay. Let me go ahead and remove that one, and let's try again. It was just Lauren Styles, right? So let me go back again. Maybe third time's a charm, or is this the fourth time? I don't know. Let's go back again. Let's browse. No, I had Lauren's Styles, and not Lauren's style sheet. So once again, Lauren's style. No, maybe I didn't save it, or I saved it in the wrong place. Well, let's use this one then. Let's just go back and use this one. It's close enough, because there's more that I wanted to show you. But at least you see how it brought back in the background color. If you are using heading tags, H1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it will automatically attach those. If there are individual styles like style 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that you had selected, you do have to go in if you haven't created that before, and you have to link those. But at least you don't have to recreate the styles.
It's only placing the styles on what you have in there. It's
if you're creating the page, you don't have to create new styles. If you have already assigned them, then it will assign them accordingly. Notice here, for example, one that I didn't specify in the last style sheet, but I wanted to now, is that, for example, if you don't like the standard look of links, we can create our own styles. Here we have link, visited, hover, and active. Okay, these are our A links. Okay. Now, what we can do, I can either do that again from here, or I can go to Modify, Page Properties, and we can select links. Okay. Now, we can specify because I had already specified that, at least in the last style sheet, not necessarily in this one, that in body, that the font was Verdana. I wouldn't have to specify this here. I want it bold. You can specify. You want it 12 pixels, points, specify percentage, whatever. We can specify the link color. If you want to specify visited links, you can. You can also, as a rollover effect, when it rolls over, you can specify a color. So let's go ahead and change this so you can see a new color. You can also specify a color for active links. I don't necessarily like to do that. Then you can determine as well underline styles. When you use links or create text links, by default they have always underline. And if I apply this, you can see that. And I think it looks a little unsightly myself. It's just my preference. What I do prefer or like, though, is that when you do roll over, what happens is then that underline shows. Now, if you have your navigation links in a place that is pretty much standard, either on the left side, top, bottom, or right, people are going to know, and if they're isolated, they'll know that these are the links. And they'll be able to tell by their placement and by consistency of use and that sort of thing that these are links. And they look a little bit nicer, I think. And so now we can go ahead and I've already applied them, and I can click OK. And let's go ahead now and preview it in a browser so you can see. So I'll go ahead and save it. Okay, see how the visited links are gray? When you roll over, you get the red. A little bit nicer than the standard links, and you can also control the size a little bit more effectively in the font style. And notice how it changed this link over here as well. So the advantage to using this is, let's go ahead now and let's create a new page or use another page. And you'll see where some links will, some styles will automatically be applied. Wherever you have created a link, for example, these styles will already be applied. The background color, the body tags, body will already be applied. If I were to choose, then I can go back here. Let's go back again. I'm going to hide this and bring in here. Remember, I had a background image, so let's go ahead and change that. So let's go to Modify Page Properties, and we have Appearance, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select the background image. So let's go back here. Let's select the duck again and choose Apply. And I don't want Repeat, so I want No Repeat. I click OK. I don't want it up there. So let's go back to our body. This is a new style. I want this to be added to the other. Wait a minute. What did I do here? These styles are different. They should be the ones that are here. I'm going to remove this style. See what happened. There we go. Okay. Let me look at this body tag. And why didn't it? Let's go ahead and select. Oh, did I do it here? No? Okay. Well, I'm going to change it from here then. I'm going to go ahead and edit it from here in case I goofed. So I'm going to select this from here, select the background image to make sure that it's applied to my style sheets. This would probably be the best place. Let's go back again, select the duck image, and I want to make sure that there's no repeat. Okay, I click OK. I don't want that there, but if I select the body tag, we'll notice that it's here. And now when I select this and I go to edit it, now I can go back and change the horizontal position. And I believe I had it 300 over, and I had it 100 down. Apply. That looks about right. And I click OK. Boom. Make sure that you update and you save your CSS rules as well as your page. It's in your root folder, and I say to myself, I'm done. You know, I don't want this anymore. Maybe I should get rid of this one too. Actually, I don't want to do that. I'm going to bring it back. Okay. Now, this isn't very pretty, but you get the idea. It's saved. Now, let's go back and let's open up one of my other pages. Let's go ahead and open up maybe the resume page. And you can see that nothing has happened. I mean, there's no style sheet attached. But watch what happens as soon as I attach the style sheet. The background color will change. It will include the background image. And wherever I have links, that will change. All of my styles will become visible. So as I build my page, I don't need to create new styles. I just need to take the text or whatever style I've added. If I want to use divs, if I want to use whatever, I can attach them. So now I can go ahead and link. I'm going to use Lauren's style sheet. Notice how my links changed, the background changed. So now we can go back either from here, and if I decide for myself, you know what, I didn't want that background image after all. So let's go back and let's edit this. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this. Okay, and click Apply. And it's gone. No, I thought it was kind of unsightly. Doesn't work at all. Let's go back and let's select the style, make sure that it's saved, and I go back to the index page and it's gone. Why is it gone? Because I changed the style sheet. The style sheet was attached to the page, not embedded or imported. It'll change it on all of them. So is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? It really depends. If you intend for the changes to propagate across all pages, it's a good thing. Then you can change the styles from within the style sheet. You can change the styles from within a page. And wherever else that style sheet is attached, it will change. So it makes updating pages, you can change thousands of pages in seconds.
What if you only want to change?
Then you're going to have to create a separate style sheet. And actually, I did that for my own personal website because I didn't want this background image to be on all of my pages. I only wanted it on my home page or on my index page. So I made this a separate style sheet that I attached to this page and this page alone. And then if you go to my biography page or whatever, I just use a generic sort of background color. It's the same as the front, but otherwise it would have attached that image to that, and I didn't want that. But as far as assigning the type, face, style, size, color, and everything, it made it very easy because if you go back and you change one, it changes it all. So you don't have to worry, gee, did I remember to change everything? It's automatically changed. What's correct in one will be in the others. The other thing, remember one of the rules of thumb that we talked about before is consistency from page to page to page. So if you have a P tag, you know, for paragraph, if you have a heading 1, H1 tag, H2 or H3, or your links, they will all look uniform from page to page to page, and that is really important. So, the one place that I think I should, and I really want to use lynda.com, and I will try this morning after I turn off the video, but for whatever reason, for the past several days when I've tried to open it up, it's taken forever to download. They have some good descriptions and definitions of cascading style sheets and how they function, as well as some other rules and that sort of thing that I find very helpful. So that you understand the principles of cascading. Because typically, if you start with your body tag and you define, for example, this is the generic text that I'm going for, that it's going to be, because I just have a background image for body. I don't have any text in this one. But if I were to, let's go back and edit this. Let's go back and change this. And select type. And then I'm going to select Verdana for my text here. Okay, so this is in the body tag. And then I'm going to come back in my link tags. Okay, notice how I have Verdana selected here. It's sort of redundant. It isn't necessary, or it shouldn't be necessary. So I'm going to go back and edit this and remove it. And if I hadn't applied that to the body tag, when I apply this, notice how it hasn't changed here. But it did change here, because that was the default text. That's the principle of cascading, is that if you start at the root here, if it's not going to change, it will automatically cascade down and apply to everything else, unless you make a revised change. If I come back now to A, okay, and I say, you know what, for my links, I really want, hold on here. Instead, I want a different font. I don't want it to be Verdana anymore. I want Times, or I want Georgia, or Courier, okay, and I apply it. Notice it changed them all. So what I'm doing now, down the chain of the cascade, I'm applying a change that's closer, that's more closely aligned to what I want changed. Does that make sense? Whatever is close will dominate. Okay. When you apply the rule, the body tag applies this, the font family is a basis for everything. And it will remain, rather than using the default font, which is Times Roman, it will now remain Verdana unless I specify otherwise. So down that cascade, okay, if I suddenly make a change, and in this case I changed it to my links, it will apply to those links. It will overrule that earlier rule, because it's the rule that I applied is closer to the change, meaning it's directly associated with the style that I have. If I even if I put another style and embedded it inside here, inside the code, it would even dominate over this. So you may discover sometimes, if you haven't cleared them all out and you're wondering why it isn't changing, that there might be a style that's embedded inside the HTML itself that's dominating or overruling all of the other styles you've created elsewhere. I don't know if I'm making a... So anything that's really specific that's embedded will be in here, in the code, will dominate over everything. So if you have a style left over from the ones that you initially created, which are embedded, and they weren't removed, they will dominate. You can also do another thing. You can import a style sheet. Okay, that imported style sheet is, you would see it at the top of the page. styles. See, you see here style, and it shows that that with the link, with the href, that it is linked to it. So this is what controls everything else from there down. If I had an embedded style sheet as well as a linked style sheet, the embedded one would dominate over the linked one. The linked one comes last. So within styles, the closest one rules. Even with style sheets, the closest one rules, meaning the one that's either embedded or inline and then linked last. Okay? So this, I think, for text especially, can be extremely helpful. Extremely helpful. The next step that we'll either do Thursday or when we get back from spring break so that we can use CS4 is to show you, based on a template, that they have actually are using CSS rules to lay out the page. And the templates give you a basic structure. Then within that structure, you can create or edit some of the existing rules. You can create new rules and edit existing rules. Same thing, if you want to apply those rules to other pages, you can export the rules or the entire style sheet and attach a style sheet to another page. And it makes it much easier to create a new page as well as format that page. So we've used three things so far. We've used HTML, which is embedded. That's the content of your page. Now we're adding CSS. CSS controls the look of that page. And then the last thing that you would add would be JavaScript. And JavaScript can control functionality. So if you want, and that's what we have yet to do, is if you want to add rollover buttons and things like that, if you want to add a pop-up window, if you want to do things like that, those are controlled by JavaScript. So those are it's kind of like the three legs of a stool that control your page. Does that make sense? And to view any basic page, you only need HTML, and that's it. But for quite some time, JavaScript has been important because people want to spice up the look of their web pages, and they want things like rollover buttons and fancy drop-down menus and things like that. So that's been added. And then for the longest time, CSS was there, but it was not adopted by browsers uniformly. So you could apply CSS rules, but most browsers didn't recognize it, so it would be kind of purposeless. It wouldn't be, again, designing for the broadest common denominator. Now it's been a total reversal. Now all browsers are using CSS, not only to format the look of the text, but to format the page as well. Okay, does that sort of make sense? When you do it, right. Well, when you don't, and I'm happy to repeat, because I try to do it in what I think is a logical way, but it doesn't necessarily mean it is a logical.
Can you just go over it again, or you
There's,
copy
okay.
and export it, so you'll highlight it?
Oh, okay, so
Can
to,
you just go back over that one
well,
more time?
you know, let me try something from here. Well, could have very well done it incorrectly before. Let's try it again. I'm going to try my other one again. I'm going to hold down the first style, click the first style, hold down the shift key and select the bottom one. Okay, and now I'll click up here in the little flyout window and I want to select Move CSS Rules. Now I can move them to this existing style sheet, but I said I wanted to create a new style sheet. So I need to make sure this time that I have the right root folder. It's kind of important. So here's Lauren Miller tree. So I'm going to name it again, Lauren's. And the naming of this is important too. Again, no capital letters to start, no spaces. You get the thing. .css. I hope it goes in there relative to document URL. Okay, here we go. So now it moved them. Now I can remove this style sheet because I moved them all. And now let me try to import it again, and I hope they'll find it back in there. So let's go back to link, and I don't want styles. I want, let's go back again, let's browse. Do I have it in there?
You said untitled.
No.
Underneath when you were saving, there was your, I think it said the URL and it said untitled. That's what I think is happening with me when I can't find it.
Well, let's, okay, then I screwed up. Let's try it.
I was gonna catch you before you did that to ask you.
Yeah, then I goofed. It did bring all the styles back in, and that's what happened before. So this, so I would clearly rename this and make sure that you know which one you have. And now I brought the styles back in.
Yeah.
But I think if you highlight them
Yeah.
again, you go to that drop out menu and do it again, I just want to ask you. 'Cause I think
Okay, well, let's try it again. I don't know how many. We'll try it again until I keep get it right. They used to have export, you know, not move, and it was pretty straightforward. I'm exporting my rules, I'm saving it, and importing it.
so you go to move.
So that's why I say I hope that it's changed. So let's go ahead and move rules, because that's what you're asking. I want a new style sheet. Click OK.
See where it says?
Yeah. So let's
Is that
okay.
what-
Then
I
let's
think that's where we have to
let's
name it.
name it CSS.
Yeah. And it names it both places. That's what I think.
That's what happened. Okay. Lauren's Styles .css. There you go. See how it's automatically changing it up here?
Yeah, but if you
You're
change
right.
it up there, it doesn't change it
Yeah.
below.
Boom. So now again, they're okay. Let's remove this one. Now we have all our rules. Okay, that's what I did wrong.
If you have your links set up, then they should show up under your rules, right? Like you have links. Because mine aren't showing up. See how you say, hey, you're
They should.
links?
Yeah, they should
I
show
don't
up.
have that.
Well, I think
Oh, I
because
had
you
to go to
specified.
Hmm?
I
Did-
think because you specified them.
You didn't. Okay, but did you not specify them? You have to specify them
Page property.
under page properties. As soon as you do that, for example, if I were to take and let me just start a new page and a new thing here. Let me go back. Let's go to the portfolio page. So there's clearly none here. There's none attached. The easiest way to assign styles to links is to go to Modify Page Properties and then select links. Now notice that even it asks you link font same as page font. Well, I don't want that here because if I had assigned started a new style sheet earlier, it would make sense. Then I could use that cascade and I wouldn't have to apply that. But now I decide, okay, yes, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use Verdana. Size, do I want it 12 point pixels, ems, percentage, whatever you want. You can specify the link color. Well, I'm going to specify black. If I don't specify visited links, rollover links, active links, they will remain black. That's your choice. You don't have to specify a color for each of those. It's up to you. Do you want it always underlined, which is what you see by default, or do you want one of these other features? Never underline, show underline, only on rollover, so on and so forth. You want to make it bold. And as soon as I click apply, notice it changed it to all of them, all of my links. And I'm creating a new style sheet as I do that. Here's the new styles. And automatically, even though I didn't specify any properties for the visited or the hover or the active, it's now defined. Now when I export this, it will be there for any future page I choose to attach it to.
But the only thing with that one is that once you go onto the body text, and if you have a text link right there, it
If
will
I
use
change-
that as CSS.
If I change the, if I were to add a body tag now, okay? So if I click in here and we have a body tag, so there's none, let me select. Let me go down here. Let me go ahead and add a property down here. And I want class can apply. No, I want a body. Okay? And I don't want this, well, I'll just leave it this document only. Normally it would be that. So here's my body tag. Okay? And I specify in my body tag that I want Times New Roman for my text. And I click OK or apply. Actually, let me do, no, let's do courier. Okay, and apply. Notice how it changed the text that I have down here, but it left the links alone. Why did it leave the links alone? Because down in the cascade, the links, the style that I had specified for the links were closer. That they override the body tag. But
And there you could also
if I go back and I take this, now watch what happens if I go back and I edit this style and I just select, let's go ahead and select none here. And I go ahead and apply. Look at what typeface it's using. It's using the one that I specified for the body. And it's not using Times Roman, which is the default font that most computers use or have set up. That's why you see that. And for links, it's that. It's also a blue that's used. It's also, you know, a number of features that are just default, but you don't have to keep them. Now, notice that this is an embedded style. Let's go ahead and apply or link the other style. Let's browse and do Lauren Styles and choose. Now it changed the background color. Why didn't it change the links? Because the embedded one overrides the linked one.
but the body is no longer courier.
You're right. But, okay, so I don't know. Now that's bizarre. Yeah, I don't have an explanation for that. But you can see if you're not careful, you're going to have conflicting ones.
Well, how does that happen? You know, because now Lauren Style seems to be on, you know, below style. Does that mean that Lauren Style is the dominant one?
No, it shouldn't have
You know,
anything.
the way it's cascading right now, style
But it-
seems to be in the background.
Yeah, but it shouldn't do that because this style sheet is embedded. That was what my thinking is. I said that it applies to this page only, so it's embedded in the page. So this one, hypothetically, this one should work. This is courier, but this one, this body, Verdana, is overriding it. I'm sorry, I don't have an explanation for that. And I know that there is one. So, well, it does caution you to be careful if you have multiple style sheets, because one is going to conflict and one's going to dominate and override the other. It shouldn't be a problem for the size of website site that you guys are creating right now, because you're going to have basically one style sheet and that's it, and that's all you care about. But if you start to integrate, style sheets, be careful that you don't have conflicting tags, or styles, I should say. Okay? Okay, those are an introduction to CSS. And I will see if I can get lynda.com going so that we can, while you're working, work with some of that.